Hi guys, I'm Jim and this is Jim's Fix-It Shop, and this is Saturday morning and I just got back from the shop. If you watched the previous one, you will remember I had to go down and make these bushings so I can use the kingpins and the steering shaft that are out of a different machine. But first, I want to get these seals in the dust caps for the back of the machine. And I know it's tempting to get a heat gun or a hair dryer and try to soften these, but please do not do that. All you need is a container of hot water. I had a viewer that tried to use I don't know if it was a hair dryer or a heat gun, but he got it so hot that he melted it. The large one, I don't know about this one. I didn't check on it. I did check on this one because I was having trouble getting it off and I thought I was gonna destroy the thing. And you can't buy them anymore. These are obsolete. I'm not sure about the one on the left hand side of the machine, but the one on the right hand side of the machine for the differential, you cannot buy them anymore. They are gone. So please be careful with these because you can't get another one. We got this one soaking in some hot water. And we're going to try and press this seal down in here. I thought I was going to need this socket, but that thing slid right down in there with no problem. Now let's throw this one in the hot water. You don't have to let it soak for a long time, just long enough to get pliable. It doesn't take long. I don't know what this material is, what it's made out of. It's just looks like a piece of plastic to me. We'll see if that's warm enough. If it ain't, just throw it back in there. This one I'm going to need a socket. Went right in with no problem at all. You can see it down in there. Make sure it's all the way in and flat. And apparently it is. Now I get rid of this water before I spill it on the floor. That's all that's to that. Now let's see if we can fix these kingpins and steering shaft. I made one of these. I just took a piece of 1/2-inch bar stock, had some laying around here, ran down to the shop, got on my lathe, and I drilled a hole up in the end of it, I don't know, a couple inches. And one of these I had to turn down a little bit on the OD, this one, because this hole for some reason is smaller than this one. So I wanted to turn that down a little. Now we'll get us a little clamp to act as a press. See, and I don't want to tear this all apart to put this in my press. Good enough. These two, I believe, will just slide right in. Now, because that this is once you get this off, this hex back here that you hang on to with a wrench so you can tighten your nut is actually smaller than our bushings. We have to put washers on here, or once we get this on, the whole thing's just going to slide right out and fall off on us. I'd be so glad when I get this place cleaned up, so my snapper work is going to be done on the other side of the room where all my tools are. I'm getting real tired of working out of a box. Now you're going to need a 7/16 wrench to hold this with and a 1/2 inch to tighten the nut. We'll get these together finger tight, and then we'll tighten them all up. That bushing wanted to slide out of there already. That just goes to show you we really need, sorry about that, we really need these washers on there to keep that contained. I guess that just shows you that there's not too much you can't fix. If you just think about what you need to do to solve your problem. And we're going to put lock washers on here because these nuts, for some reason, are not self-locking. Everything else typically is on these machines, and this one I didn't put a lock washer on. And seeing that this machine is going to be going so far away, I don't want to get a phone call in about a month and say, my machine's broke. You want to lock them right down tight because the shaft with the ball on the backside does not need to turn. The ball rotates inside of the tie rod. This nut seems to have a bad spot on it, and I can't get the closed end of the wrench on it. Somebody must have tried to break it loose and take it off with a wrench instead of a socket, and they messed the nut up. And I do not have any more 5/16 24 nuts. These are fine threads. Now I lucked out with the steering because some of the steering rods that I had these are both the same, and you can tell on the old one, this one is the only one I had with the same bolt pattern as his old one. These other two that I have, as you can see, it has a larger bolt pattern. So luckily I had one that I could use. Otherwise, if I used one of those with a wider spread here, my two front tires, instead of being parallel, would have been towed out. That doesn't steer real well that way. I would have had to cut this flange off, weld one on, and drill the correct pattern. But I lucked out, that part was right. And no issues. Now we can get the front tires on maybe. And the bearings in the front tires are okay. Now all I got to do is find the washers and the cotter keys that go in the front tires. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Now I found a couple of things. One, I found the snap ring that goes on the opposite side of my pedal. Turn around there. I couldn't find it last night when I wanted it. Now, if I can keep it on here and get it on, these pliers for some reason are not holding well. Maybe it's time for some new tips. And there we go. Now, I also dug out another new thrust washer for the axle. We have to cut it, just like we did the other ones. Let me tip you down here. Get this popped in here. I want to put it next to that plastic spacer. There we go. Now we got about maybe a 32nd of side play. That's good. Now while I'm got the camera tipped down here, I'm going to put on these seals. I got them in some warm water. That way they will comply and slide up on the fender, I'm hoping. Gotta kind of screw them on, I guess, to get them on there. You want them up on the lip of the fender, and then you can put the clamps on. And we'll grab the other one out of the warm water. Now to get these over the axle, let's say this is your axle. I put them on an angle. I hook the top of the rubber seal on the axle. I pull down and tip it straight. That way, if you just try to shove it on there, you could rip or damage the lip seal inside of here. And I think I waited too long, it got cold. We'll have to warm it back up. We'll let that sit for a minute. And we'll put this dashboard on. And again, this is a different one. His was busted pretty good. You need a T25 Torx bit for these screws. I gotta pull down on the emergency brake lever here, so the handle will go through the slot. Oh, I guess I ought to tip it back up, huh? To get this handle for the to lock the brakes through this slot, you have to reach up under the front and pull down on that rod, so it will go through and go in there. You know, we want to be careful with these things because when they're old, they get brittle and they break pretty easy. And last time I checked, I think they were around 30 bucks a piece. Alright, now let's see if our dust cap is warmed up enough to go on there. It don't take long for these things to cool off and get hard. Now we'll put the clamp on. And on the inside, now we can put the boot in place. Now to stretch these boots, it's kind of hard to actually stretch them and get the clamp on. So when I'm putting this one on, I put it in reverse. That kind of helps push the boot on. Interchange my tips. We might have to take the other side off to get this side on. This one's a little harder to get over top of all them seals we put in there, or shims. This should make it a little simpler, I hope. I just don't want to go on. I think I'm going to have to take this clamp right off and get it out of my way to get that boot in place. I don't know how much you can see, probably nothing, but that helped a lot. Boot slid right on once I got the clamp out of my way. This is a tight spot to work in, let alone try to see what you're doing. But the slot in this fender really helps to get onto that screw. Now we'll put it in reverse and put it on this side. I think a little bit of this stuff will help us out. These are different clamps. I'm not really sure if I like them all that well. Because that one's just in the way too. I don't know if you can see much. I'm sorry. You want to make sure you get them on all the way so they catch on them little bumps they got sticking out. That's what they lock on. So hopefully they don't come off. So that's the boots, the dust seals, the differential is in position. Now we just got to come back up here and fix what we messed up. I put the tires on before I put the dust caps on. Now these dust caps are just, I've got another one around here somewhere. This is what they look like empty. There is 3 of these washers down inside of here that the inner race of the bearing pushes against, and then between the outer edge of the dust cap and the washers is a felt seal that keeps the sand out. I don't know if we can take this off without the other side falling on the floor. These go on, and there's two little bumps sticking up from your kingpins that go into slots on there. And the tire goes on. And then you gotta fill it up with these washers. Stick your cotter key in there and see how much room you've got. I don't know if two are gonna fit or not, but you want it snug. I think I can get 3 in there. Much better. Now let's do this side. I'm hoping to get this thing finished today so I can get it, let him know. These are the slots I was talking about. They go over top these bumps. They lock right on there. And you put the tire back on. And we'll start out with 3 washers on this side. I guess it depends on how large of diameter of cotter key you're using, on how much you're going to need to fill that in. Very nice. Now, I don't know if I'm going too fast, but if you miss something, send me an email. This channel is not like every other YouTube channel. I answer my emails. Now you want to make sure you get that thing crushed on there good, because the plastic hubcap has got to slide over top of the cotter key. And the hubcap hooks onto the hub, so as the tire rotates, so does the hubcap. And you don't want to cut a slot through your hubcap. At least they're only, I think, less than $3. They're $2.54 or something. At least they're not that bad. And it is important to keep a hubcap on here. So check your machines once in a while. If you've lost it, order a couple, because the hubcaps can be a lot cheaper than the shipping. Usually Parts Tree shipping is, I believe, $7.95 if you order one hubcap, which weighs nothing, or you order every part to rebuild this machine. They have one flat shipping rate. And I don't know if you've shipped anything lately, but $7.95 is dirt cheap. I don't know how they do it. Now, if you're going to get something shipped from someone else, like me, that has a flexible rate, it goes by the size of the box and how much it weighs. If you're still working, or you know somebody that's working, it's cheaper for me to ship it to where you work than to ship it to your house. That's the first thing it asks, questions that it asks when you're filling out the form, is it a business or a residence? The price goes up. I guess because most businesses, UPS comes there every day anyway. The stuff I ship out, if I don't send it through the post office in these priority packages with a flat rate, I ship it out of my shop. And it's cheaper for me to ship it, and it'd be cheaper for you to receive it if it goes to where you work. So, you know, something to think about. Now, I guess we can get the wheel flanges on and the rear tires. We can actually set this thing on the floor. I'll be right back. Okay, now we're going to put the wheel flanges on. This one is in pretty good shape. The other one has some issues. You're going to need a pair of pliers to hold on to this taper so you can get the nut tight. Need a 1/2 inch wrench. Now, to get the wheels on, or I should say the tires, I cheat a little. I bought 2 of these. Well, I bought 3 to show you. They're just a socket head cap screw, 1/2 thread. You cut the heads off, and you can screw them in here. That way I can hang the tire on them studs. I don't have to hold it while I put in one of the lug bolts, lug bolts. Then take one of these out at a time. You still have 2 in there holding the tire for you. Put this one in. Take the last one out, put your last bolt in. It makes it so much simpler. My Ingersoll garden tractor is set up the same way. Why they do that, I have no clue. The tires on that thing are about 45 pounds apiece. You can't hold that tire up and get them bolts in place. Plus, I loaded the back tires of my tractor with windshield washer solvent. It doesn't freeze in the winter. And I need the extra weight for traction. And the reason I use windshield washer solvent is because it's cheap. 97 cents a gallon. Now this flange is in really bad shape. That's one hole. This is the other. But what they did is they drilled new holes through the flange 90 degrees to the first hole, which worked perfect. No problem. This is the original bolt that came out of it. And you can see it's bent, the threads are messed up. So we went and dug out another bolt. And it don't look like they drilled the hole very true. Looks like that's why they got the problem with the bolt being bent. I may have to re-drill this hole myself. Looks like it might line up. It's off just a little bit. Nice part about these machines is they're simple to work on, and if things don't work out just right, you can fix it. Again, we'll use our studs to hold the tire. Now, I did see one issue with these tires. I noticed it when I had the machine sitting in the garage and I looked at the back of it. These tires are different sizes. Somebody had switched, probably put a new tire on. This one looks newer. It's still got the bumps on the tread that aren't even wore off yet. But the tire was a little bit different in size. This is a 16 by 750 8-inch. And this one says it's a 16 by 750 8-inch rim. But they're different manufacturers, so it makes the tires different sizes. And the wife says it's time for lunch, so I gotta quit for now. We'll see you in a little while. Okay, went to Taco Bell. Got some lug nuts here. Or lug bolts. We're not used in this country to have lug bolts on anything. They're always lug nuts. This makes it so much simpler. If you really want to get simple, I have a video on it. You go down to the hardware store and you buy yourself some 1/2-inch 20 bolts. I think it's 1.25 inches long. You screw them in from the back side of the wheel flange and use a lock washer. And then you can just slide the tire on, put 3 nuts on, and you're done. If you don't want to do that, you can go with the studs. You can actually go down to the automotive store and buy studs that size, but they're a lot more expensive than just buying a bolt and cutting the head off. There, we got all 4 tires on. Now I suppose we could put on the brake and clutch cable. Now first, I gotta get the spring, I guess, and get it on the yoke. I'll be back in a second. Now this spring is a little different than the ones we're used to. I don't know if I'm gonna need a pair of pliers to get this thing on. This has got some stretch to it. So it hooks up in a little tab that's bent down in the top of the rear case. It hooks up there. Then it hooks to the arm on the yoke. And I'm going to put it in the tightest hole. Okay, now for the brake and clutch cable. This is really pretty simple. Now on most of our snappers, we all have these ferrules for adjustment. Most of them go through the tube, they come out a slot, and they hook to the brake pedal itself. And I don't have any laying around here. This one does not. It goes up in here and hooks to an arm that's hooked to the brake pedal. And you still adjust it the same way with these ferrules. Right now we're going to put it with all the ferrules down to see how it works. There is a square slot or hole right here. Let me drop this camera right down a little. Here's the square hole. I got my finger sticking through it. We want to drop the cable in from the outside through that hole. Now this is the brake cable. And now we'll stuff the clutch cable in. The little black clamp stays outside of the hole. Now on this cable, we've got a threaded portion with a nut. That goes through the tab. They got bent. And the nut goes on. That holds the outside shielding of the cable in place. And that looks like probably about a 7/16 nut. We'll tighten that up. Now down here, the clutch cable hooks in a slot on the arm of the yoke. And that might be a job getting that in there. Now I got spring hook. Well, I might have to take that out. I can see why when he bought this machine, the clutch cable was not hooked up, so he couldn't really use the clutch. That arm is bad. Either that or he's got the wrong cable. Let me pull that clamp off camera. Okay, I got the arm off of the yoke. And there was nothing wrong with this cable. I don't know if the man that sold it to Bruce bought a new one. I think he did, and it's in a box of parts Bruce gave me. But it doesn't work either because it's the same cable. And how these things are supposed to work. This bracket with these two holes bolts to your yoke. The spring goes up here and it pulls it into the drive disc. Well, when you push on your clutch pedal, and this is the end here, how you install these is you got a hole there, right here, with a slot around the corner. So you stick your cable in this hole and you pull it up the slot and then it locks. Well, it's supposed to lock. This pulls right out of here because that hole is worn. There's two holes there. That was the only thing wrong with this machine when he sold it. One of these are probably 20 bucks. Could have replaced it. He replaced the yoke because that's black. He should have replaced this. So I think putting the clutch and brake cable on is going to be another video, because I'm going to have to clean the paint off of this, weld this hole completely shut, and then I'll put it in a vise at the shop like this, and I'll come through here. If I had something small enough, I'll come through here with an end mill into this hole, and I'll reslot this. So then all that's going to be up here is a very small diameter hole the size of this cable, not the size of the ferrule that's crushed on the end. I can't believe he didn't notice that when he put it back together. So I guess this is the end of this video. I'm sure it's gone long enough. And I guess I won't get it down on its tires today, unless I want to run back down to the shop, weld this up and machine it. I don't know, it's raining outside anyway, can't do anything else. My grass is like this tall because I've been working in here instead of working out there. So don't forget to subscribe. It really will help me out. And until next time, work safe, have fun, and keep on snapping. We'll talk to you soon. So long.